How's it going, peeps? It is now time for the Raw results slash highlights and review video. I'll go over the results, some of the highlights in my opinion, and give you guys my thoughts on the overall show. So it all kicks off with John Cena coming out, and he talks about Ryback challenging him to an ambulance match. During his speech, the crowd started chanting, "We want Brett, we want Brett." And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I had totally forgotten that they were actually in Calgary. John Cena acknowledges them for a short while, says that I think Brett's coming out later tonight or something like that. But anyways, he challenges Ryback to a 3 stages of hell match. He says the first fall is going to be a lumberjack match, the second fall is going to be a tables match, and the third fall is going to be what Ryback wanted, an ambulance match. Ryback then comes out. To sum it up, he says, say hello to Lucifer, say hello to Satan, say hello to Ryback, and then leaves. And then Paul Heyman comes out and tells John Cena it's one thing to accept a challenge from Ryback, and then it's another thing to challenge Ryback to a 3 stages of hell match. He then says, since John Cena's saying hello to everybody or whatever, he'd like John Cena to say hello to his newest client, a future WWE Hall of Famer, future WWE Champion. He brings out Curtis Axel, who seems to have changed his theme song once again in his since his debut or whatever. Anyways, he comes out and pretty much they challenge John Cena to a match tonight. Curtis Axel versus John Cena. John Cena tries to give Curtis some advice, telling him to stay away from Paul Heyman as far as possible. And Curtis Axel tells him he didn't ask John Cena for his opinion, they asked him if he wanted to fight. So John Cena accepts, and there you have it. Curtis Axel versus John Cena. And then the first match of the night was actually Del Rio versus Big E Langston in a rematch from the last week's Raw. But they actually had a rematch on main events, which Del Rio won, but the one on Raw, Big E Langston won. So this one was the third match between the two. And AJ accompanied Big E Langston as always. And she actually caused him the matchup when she took off the turnbuckle padding in one of the corners. The referee saw that, so he was going to put it back. But then he saw that Del Rio locked on the cross arm breaker onto Big E Langston, so he stopped trying to put it back on and went to check if Big E Langston was going to tap. Big E Langston did not tap, and he actually lifted Del Rio up. Del Rio ends up pushing Big E Langston into the exposed turnbuckle, rolls him up, gets the victory. After the matchup, AJ goes in the ring, and Big E Langston is just looking at her like, you cost me the matchup or whatever. And she's like, I was trying to help you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like kind of blaming Big E Langston or, not really being apologetic. Big E Langston leaves the ring and AJ follows him and is still yelling at Big E Langston, or telling him that, she was just trying to help. They then had a backstage segment with Team Hell No, and Daniel Bryan's still going on about the weak link thing. Kane is telling him, nobody said you're the weak link. The only person that thinks you're the weak link is yourself. And he tells Daniel Bryan being tough has nothing to do with size, this and that. In the end, they argue. Daniel Bryan is saying yes, Kane is saying no. And then Bret Hart pops up, and pretty much he tells him to, stop arguing, and they're one of the best teams he's ever seen. And Daniel Bryan asks Bret Hart for advice, or he actually asks him if he thinks... No, actually, asked Bret Hart, you were the smaller guy in the Hart Foundation, did people think you were the weak link? And then Bret Hart says pretty much the same thing that Kane said, where he said, being tough doesn't have to do with size or something like that. And then Daniel Bryan's like, oh, and, he acknowledges Bret Hart's advice or whatever, and he says thanks or something like that. Bret Hart leaves, and then Kane is like, I said the exact same thing, why is it you listen to Bret Hart, but when I say it, you just ignore it. And then Daniel Bryan says, because he's Bret Hart, he's the best there was, the best there is, the best there ever will be, and you're just Kane. And that was it for the segment. Dean Ambrose then came out for his United States Championship match, a rematch against Kofi Kingston. And it was another pretty good matchup. In the end, Ambrose wins with his Snapmare DDT or whatever the finisher's called. The move that's a signature move for The Miz in the video game. They're close to that. Anyways, after he wins, Team Hell No, actually before Team Hell No, the rest of the Shield come out to celebrate with Dean Ambrose, and then the pyro goes off, and Kane and Daniel Bryan come out, and they take out the Shield, take them out of the ring, and once they come back from commercial break, the Tag Team Championship match, or rematch, is now underway. It ends up being another great tag team match between the two, and in the end, the Shield retain, when Daniel Bryan was on fire during the matchup. The crowd was really was really chanting, for Daniel Bryan, and he was pulling off some impressive things. At one point, he pulled off a top turnbuckle, the very top turnbuckle, a back suplex from there onto Seth Rollins. Anyways, in the end, he tagged in Kane for the hot tag. Kane comes in, and Daniel Bryan on the outside keeps attacking Roman Reigns, and he was about to go for the running knee from the apron onto Roman Reigns, but Kane is like, go back into your corner, I guess, to stop them from getting disqualified or whatever, but Daniel Bryan refuses. So he goes for the running knee off the apron onto Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns catches him in midair with a spear, and then Kane, distracted by that, gets hit by Seth Rollins, who hits a springboard knee onto Kane, goes for the cover, and wins the matchup, so the Shield retain the tag team titles. Afterwards, they give us an update on Triple H's situation on concussion, says that he should be cleared midweek, and that hopefully he'll give us an update himself via video or something like that. And then you have The Miz coming out, and they give the universe, the WWE universe, the option to vote what The Miz should do in a match between Fandango and Wade Barrett. The options were guest referee, guest commentator, or guest ring announcer. The people can vote in their WWE app. So anyways, they reveal the pool results, and guest referee ends up winning, which seemed pretty obvious because the other two choices really weren't all that great, and he has commentated over Wade Barrett matches before. So, anyways, the match, it was a really quick matchup, and I'd say Fandango, in the beginning, Fandango had the advantage. He chopped Barrett a couple times or whatever. In the end, Wade Barrett puts Fandango in between the ropes, and he did that signature move of his where he gives him a couple knees and then follows that up with a big boot. But before he could do the running big boot, The Miz got in the way and checked on Fandango while he was in the ropes. So Wade Barrett grabbed The Miz and threw him, and The Miz then, rose up and hit the skull-crushing finale on Wade Barrett. Fandango then pins Wade Barrett, and The Miz does the 3 count, so Fandango wins the matchup. After the match, he raises Fandango's hand. Fandango takes his hand away from The Miz. The Miz then raises it up once again, and then Fandango does his dance routine with Summer Rae. While he does that, The Miz comes back and hits a big boot onto Fandango, taking him down, and Summer Rae falls on top of Fandango, and then The Miz does a 3 count, implying that Summer Rae also beat Fandango. And that was pretty much it for the segment. And then backstage, John Cena was with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was telling John Cena, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Talking about him challenging Ryback to a 3 Stages of Hell match. And HBK goes on about how, he's the voice, that John Cena is the same as Triple H, and that he's the voice of reason, but they never listen to him. And then John Cena says, "That reminds me of somebody, you," and then leaves. Afterwards, it was a 6-man tag team match. The Great Khali, Tons of Funk versus 3MB. Tons of Funk and the Great Khali win the matchup. After the match, they announced that it's Natalya's birthday, and they all dance. Afterwards, came time for Chris Jericho's highlight reel with special guest Paul Heyman. Jericho says he wants to talk about Paul Heyman's client. Paul Heyman starts to talk about Brock Lesnar. Jericho tells him to please shut the hell up, and then tells him he wants to talk about CM Punk. They showed a footage of CM Punk leaving, hugging Paul Heyman and then leaving. And he says, now that CM Punk is taking all this time off, or, this break, and he's been away for 6 weeks, then he's no longer the best in the world. He can't claim that. And Jericho goes on to say he's the best in the world. Well, actually, Paul Heyman stops him, tells him to not say that because it bugs him or whatever. Pretty much, Jericho challenges CM Punk, or tells Paul Heyman to tell CM Punk that he's challenging him to a matchup at Payback in CM Punk's hometown of Chicago. Paul Heyman actually accepts on CM Punk's behalf, so the match is on. The Bella Twins then face off against Kaitlyn and Natalya. During the matchup, the crowd is actually chanting happy birthday to Natalya. And Natalya was about to win the matchup for her team with the sharpshooter, but then one of the other Bellas, the Bella that's not the legal person right now, gets in the ring, slaps Natalya. Kaitlyn stops her, takes her down. But afterwards, Kaitlyn goes for a spear on the legal Bella, but she gets out of the way, so she spears Natalya instead. And then she goes in her corner. Nikki Bella or Brie Bella, whoever is legal at that time, takes Kaitlyn down and then pins Natalya for the victory. After the match, the Bellas grab some microphones and they chant or sing happy birthday to Natalya, but they say happy birthday to you, dear loser. So, yeah. Anyways, after that, Michael McGillicuddy is back. Well, Curtis Axel is backstage and he gets approached by Bret Hart. He also gives him the advice to ditch Paul Heyman, get away from Paul Heyman. Axel takes that the wrong way once again, and he tells Bret Hart, just because you knew my father doesn't know you know me. And he says the only person that would give him the time of day was Paul Heyman, and I believe then he told Bret Hart to leave because he's about to beat the WWE champion tonight. They then showed a video package, a promo video for Bray Wyatt, the former Husky Harris, so seems like he's going to be debuting soon. And then they had a tag team match. It was Team Rhodes Scholars versus Randy Orton and Sheamus. And Michael Cole actually referred to them as the Celtic Vipers, so maybe that's their new team name. But anyways, the the Celtic Vipers, I guess, win the matchup when Sheamus hits the bro kick on Damien Sandow. And the match was actually pretty damn long. I'm wondering which one was actually longer, this match or the other tag team match for the tag team titles between The Shield and Daniel Bryan and Kane. And then it was time for the main event, John Cena versus Curtis Axel in a non-title match. The match was mostly dominated by Curtis Axel, and towards the end, you had the ambulance coming out, the same ambulance that, well, an ambulance came out, so John Cena, who was in the ring still, during the match with Curtis Axel, he gets out of the ring to go check on the ambulance. He's wondering if Ryback is in the ambulance, so he opens the door, checks if Ryback's there, and during this whole time, the referee's counting, he's counting him out. Eventually, the referee rings the bell, but they don't announce the winner or anything. They don't say the winner, Curtis Axel, by countout, at least not yet. John Cena then opens up the back door of the ambulance, and he doesn't see Ryback, but then Ryback comes from behind, attacks John Cena, and he tries to put John Cena through the Minitron once again, but John Cena gets out of the way. John Cena puts him up for the attitude adjustment, but Ryback gets off John Cena's shoulders and then just bails. So he leaves, and then they announce that the winner by countout, Curtis Axel. So last week he beats Triple H, and this week he beats John Cena, both by countouts. I'm thinking the previous one was also by countout, although the referee wasn't counting last week, but he did defeat Triple H, according to WWE.com and Paul Heyman. So, yeah, as far as Raw tonight, what did I think about the show? Highlights, I really, really enjoyed the tag team match between Team Hell No and The Shield. I think that was the match of the night for me, and Daniel Bryan was definitely the highlights of the matchup, in my opinion. And also, after Raw, I forgot to point this out, but after Raw was a Bret Hart Appreciation Night, and they're actually showing it right now on the app, so yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, if you did, you can click that like button down below. I'd really appreciate it. With that said, I'm out, guys. See ya.